All right. What's up, Facebook? What's up, Instagram? I'm doing both again. And this is hilarious. So I don't normally live stream to both at one time, but when I do, I have this like elaborate setup where I have my, my keyboard and wireless keyboard, wireless mouse, and then I have my laptop elevated up on something like I don't have one of those roost stands or anything yet. I usually use like a pile of books. Um, and then since I'm in two different places at once, what's up, Seth? Then I put my phone like on a tripod behind my laptop so that I can sort of kind of look into your eyes on both platforms at the same place. But I'm traveling right now. I'm actually down staying with a friend in San Diego, and I didn't have my tripod, and so I was like sitting here for the longest time, scratching my head, being like, how am I gonna stand up my phone somewhere close to my laptop? Like, should I get an even bigger pile of books and just prop it up against a water bottle? Like, I was coming up with all these really complicated solutions to be able to put my phone in close to the the webcam on my laptop. And I was like going through all these things, and then a few minutes ago I was like, Sandra, or you could just hold the phone, like hold it in your hand. And that felt really silly. So that was my super high-tech solution. I am now holding my phone in my hand, and then I'm looking at my laptop. Kind of, yeah, one of those moments where I'm like, wow, really? Sometimes we're too high-tech for our own good, I think. But a simple task for an overly complicated Sandra, somebody says, yes, agreed. I love to come up with like clever solutions, and sometimes I don't see the really obvious ones staring me in the face. But anyway, some of you may, if you were following my 7 days of mastery, and if you were paying attention, you may have noticed that there was no seventh day after the first 6 days. One of my clients was like, what happened to day 7? Where's day 7? I was like, day 7 hasn't happened yet. So apologize for the delay, but we're here now. I did the first 6 of the 7 days during a sort of an interesting hectic period while we were moving out of our place in San Francisco in Mill Valley. And day 7 would have been the day that we were driving from San Francisco down to Santa Barbara. And it just didn't happen. And so I let it go. It was all good. I thought about doing it, like we arrived, but then we were spending the whole evening with my brother and sister-in-law and my nieces and stuff, and we had friends with us, so it was just a little hectic. So I was like, I'm just gonna worry about it later. So day 7 is happening today, almost a week late, but it's here. So if you've been sitting in suspense, here's your recap, or here's day 7 for you. So I'll just quickly recap the first 6 days, and then I'll give you day 7. And I'm also gonna, for those of you who are on my list, I'm gonna send out an email with with links to all the different days, so you have it. And if you're not on my list, then send me a message and I'll send you a link if you want to get onto it. You could also just go to my website, which is sandrapassing.com. Sandra with an A. You can pronounce it Sandra or Sandra if it's spelled with an A. Okay, so here's the recap. Day 1 was the power of identity, and in terms of like, these are what I see as some of the main building blocks of self-mastery or personal development. So the power of identity, which to me just means knowing who you are, knowing what makes you tick, what is important to you, what do you give a shit about, what are your values, what's your purpose, stuff like that. Like, that is the foundation of everything. Day 7 on day 11. Yes, thank you very much. I make my own rules, so that's how we're playing it. So day 1, power of identity, super, super important. It's a huge part of the work I do with people. It's all about, self-awareness and authenticity and owning the shit out of who you are, being unapologetic about it. And first of all, figuring out who you are, because that's, it's hard to own who you are if you don't know who that is. And a lot of that is detangling past conditioning and stuff. So really powerful stuff. Day number 2 was about knowing what you want. So really being clear on where you are headed, right? If you don't know where you're going, you will probably just like wander around randomly, which I did for significant portions of my life because I hadn't really decided where I was going. And if you're interested in catching up on the missed 6 days, yes. So I will, Leon, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce your name on Instagram, but you can go, probably the easiest, actually don't know if they all saved on, they probably didn't, I didn't save them on Instagram. So the easiest thing to do is find me on Facebook, and then you can find them all just in my feed on my personal Facebook page. You can also join my free Facebook group, which is called Freedom Plus Badassery, Freedom and Badassery. And you're giving me your email. Cool. I will try to send it there too. And then you can hop on my list if you want to. So number 2 is knowing what you want. And if you don't know what you want, you probably won't get there unless you just randomly get lucky and happen to like what you get, right? But it's like, if you are an A, if where you're at is A and where you want to go is B, like it's hard to get to B if you don't know what B is, right? So it's being willing to do the work around figuring out your goals, your dreams, your desires, your big visions for your life. And you don't have to have it all figured out. You just, pick something, start walking towards it, and then you can course correct. And your vision, your goals, your dreams will probably evolve as you do. So the more you do work on who you are, the more clarity you'll get on what you want. And the more work you do on what you want, the more clarity you'll get on what you are. They work really well together. So the first 2. The third one, so day 3 was all about taking inspired action, meaning not just, randomly throwing spaghetti at the wall, but taking action that comes from an authentic place, not doing what you think you should do, but doing what you feel inspired to do and what feels aligned with who you are and what you want. And also, side note about taking imperfect action, not perfect inaction, as they say. That's for my perfectionists and my overanalyzers out there. Day 4 was about retraining your brain. The point of that was that most of the ways that most of our brains are operating is very much by default, and a lot of it is our conditioning, our fears, our ego, and limiting beliefs and things are running the show in the background. And so that's not that helpful, because if we're living our lives from a place of thinking in like a scarcity mindset and stuff, then we're not going to get where we want to go. And so if we want to get where we want to go, we need to retrain our brains. We need to learn to think differently. Unfortunately, most of us are not taught this stuff like in school or elsewhere. If you are, then you're one of the lucky ones. So I say start by becoming more aware of the thoughts you're thinking and start identifying the ones that are not helpful, start letting them go, start choosing better ones. There's enormous amounts of bodies of work on training your mind and changing the way you think out there. So find something, start working on it, right? But mostly it comes down to self-awareness so that you can choose your thoughts in real time and start thinking in a better way. Day number 5, I think it was. Yeah, day number 5 was about feeling your feelings. So I personally believe that we live in meaning like the Western world, that's where most of my audience is, in the States or Canada or Australia or Europe. If you're elsewhere, awesome that you're listening. But most of us in the Western world we're like emotionally stunted. We are very, very limited in how we experience our emotions because our culture teaches us not to, right? We're like, do that shit behind closed doors. Don't feel your feelings, vulnerabilities, weakness, all that stuff. And so that leads to a lot of problems because bottling up emotions is not healthy. And then when they come out in an unhealthy way if we've been repressing them and holding them in. So I am all about you feeling your feelings and doing so in a healthy way. There's lots of ways to do that. So go find video number 5 if you want to see that. Really, really, really important. Plus, it makes life and your experience of your own life so much richer if you actually feel your feelings. Day number 6, quote unquote, yesterday, which was actually last Wednesday, a week ago. Day number 6 was about finding your people. And by this, I mean, friends, family, surrounding yourself with people, but not just the people that you're surrounded with by default, which is all fine and good, like love on those people too, but make sure you have some people that are your people, meaning who are like-minded and who are on a similar journey so that you have people you can relate to and also people that can pull you forward. So I think I used the example of entrepreneurs. For us entrepreneurs, it's really important to have other entrepreneurs to talk to so that we don't feel like we're in crazy town. Like we need to be around people who are going through similar challenges. So we have other people who understand us, right? To talk to a 9-to-5er about your entrepreneurial problems, there's going to be a disconnect and vice versa, right? So it's really helpful to have people who are on a similar path and not just on a similar path on a similar plane, but people who are ahead of you. So mentors, coaches, teachers, guides, people who basically have the lifestyle that you want and who have achieved what you want to achieve, or just on the path but are a few steps ahead of you, so they can turn around and be like, it's safe, come on, follow me, I've done it, you can do it too. They can inspire you, they can motivate you, they can guide you, they can give you tips and strategies and advice, right? So important to have those people. So find your people, the ones at your level and the ones ahead of you. And then that brings us to day number 7, which you've been waiting for in suspense unwittingly for a week. And day number 7 is about remembering to play. This has been a huge theme for me in the last year or so. And I mean, I think I've always liked to play. I've always liked adventure and travel and, silliness and goofiness and stuff. But I'm realizing how actually crucial it is to our health, to our well-being as humans. Like, I believe that we are wired to experience joy and to have fun and to play and to be silly. And when we, come out as kids, most of us are naturally very inclined to do so. And then through conditioning and, school, where they teach you to like just sit down and be still and memorize stuff and regurgitate things that you've memorized through repetition. If you can't tell, I'm not a huge fan of that model. I don't necessarily have a solution, but anyway, we're so taught to play small and like keep it together and behave and quiet down and all this stuff as kids. And then as we grow into adults, we're taught to start adulting, quote unquote, so it's like, be responsible. And by the way, it's like, there's nothing wrong with adulting. There are a lot of important parts of adulting, taking responsibility for yourself and your life and being a kind person and, figuring your shit out one way or another. However, so much of the time, I think as we're busy adulting, we forget to play and we lose our connection with that inner child, which desperately wants to come out and just like run around in the grass and play, and laugh and giggle and be silly. We're so busy trying to impress everyone and like, perfect our social media profiles and all that bullshit. And then we forget that we want to have fun, and so my invitation, I'm like pleading with you, every single one of you, and this message is just as much for me as it is for you, to remember to play, because it's so important. It's important for your health. It's important for your physical health. It's important for your mental health, your emotional experience, your spirituality, everything. It's like, we need to play. We so need to play as humans. And play can look really different. And so I also want to just, make a note of that too, that play, it doesn't have to look like any certain specific thing. Play for me may be like your worst nightmare and vice versa. So I'll give you a couple examples of the ways that I like to play. And then if you have any of your own examples too, I'd love to hear those. Like, for me, play is not something that has to happen when I'm doing extracurricular activities. Like, play can be incorporated into my daily life. I certainly will go play. Like this past weekend was a great example. My husband and I, along with 3 good friends, drove from San Francisco to Santa Barbara and then down to San Diego. We rented an Airbnb, and then we went to a music festival 2 days and danced our faces off, and we laughed and we had a great time. And we just really sunk into the music, and we just like, woo, it's super fun. Like, to me, that is play. Music is play, dance is play, laughing with friends is play. At the same time, maybe play can be something that happens while you work. I have the beautiful benefit of being my own boss and deciding how I want to do my business and making all my own rules. And so I can have play as much as I want to. I'll give you a couple examples. So when I lead a retreat, for example, sometimes we're working on really deep emotional things. There's tears, there's transformation happening. It's hard, it's amazing, but it's hard, or it's, kind of serious because we're talking about changing our mindset and changing our lives. So I also like to add a little bit of I've changed hands. I need one of those things, the flippy things you put on the back of your phone so you can hold it more easily. So during a retreat, I like to lighten up the mood a little bit by incorporating other fun things in addition to whatever content we're working on and partner exercises and things. And so typically the way I do that is by bringing in improv games. I've taken improv classes and done some training, and I love it. I love the silliness of it. It's simple things. Improv teaches you great life skills and stuff too, so I actually recommend it to everybody. But at my retreats, it's like the perfect way to give us a little break from, heavy content and doing all this deep work. Then we get up and like get into a partner improv game, and people are just laughing and they're crying, and it changes the energy, it gets them into their bodies, it changes their energy, and then we sit back down and everyone feels refreshed to work on the next segment, And for me, that feels like play. I'm laughing, they're laughing, I'm facilitating play. So it's not just me playing, it's me helping others play, which is amazing. Another example would be, yesterday, this is a perfect example. So I have a coach for a long time who's very open to everything, and a big theme in our work has been play and adventure and, inviting in as much delight and joy into their life as possible. And so I had to have this kind of like strong intuitive hit a couple of weeks ago, or maybe months ago even, that I really wanted to introduce this client to another friend who is very playful also. And I was just like, man, you two need to meet each other. So I organized a play date, and I told them both, I was like, okay, just show up this time, this place. It's in a Zoom meeting, but you have to wear a costume. Like, that is the only rule, is that everyone has to be in costume. Seriously, for no other reason than costumes are fun, that like there wasn't really a point. And so we all get on, and for an hour we just had this play date, and I framed it as like a, kind of, not even really like a game show host or something, but basically I was asking each of them the same question so that the two of them could very quickly get to know each other. And then, after the call, they can decide to connect again or not. Like, I'm just a matchmaker, so I like introducing people. I think they did connect though, and I think that they will probably hang out in person eventually, but if nothing else, like connect virtually again. But like, they both were super down, and they showed up in costume. And so I'm sitting here, and the night before I was like, oh shit, I'm at a friend's house, I don't have any costumes. And so I asked my friend, I was like, do you have any costumes I can borrow, like a hat or something? And she gave me this amazing hot pink wig. I can post a photo of it later. So I'm wearing this hot pink wig. The other person is wearing oh my gosh, like a cape, and was holding like a wand, and had this like crazy furry forest hat thing on. And then the other person was wearing this like amazing scarf. And was also like, we ended up each holding a prop. I was holding this big candle that's actually right behind me now, and I was just like holding it in front of my face. And it was just so random, but it was so fun. And it added this element of lightness and play that just made the whole thing like just really ridiculous. And so my point is, whatever play is for you, there are so many creative ways to incorporate play into your life, and I really want to challenge you to challenge your own assumptions about what your day-to-day life has to look like. Even if you have, a job with big responsibilities, and you're parenting, 5 kids, and you've got all this stuff, and you have like serious responsibilities from dawn to dusk. But what if in between you can find these little bubbles of, tiny moments where you can infuse some sort of creativity or delight or joy, or playfulness or silliness. It could look like maybe you have friends over for dinner and you play charades, or maybe you just, spend 5 minutes watching funny cat videos in between work calls so you can like pump up your own energy. Maybe you have a silly dance party with yourself. Maybe you wear something to work that is, still work appropriate depending on what you do, but maybe that has like a fun little flair, something that is an icebreaker, something that people notice and are like, what is that weird bow tie? And start a conversation. Like, the reason I include this in self-mastery, and why I think like this is a crucial part of self-mastery, is because I do believe that we are playful creatures, and at our core, we're playful creatures, and we want that, and we need it. And I believe that the world right now is taking itself way too seriously. That doesn't mean we should be irresponsible and just sit around and like fuck around all day and not do anything. There are big things to do and big problems to solve and lots of stuff to work on that's serious out there. And we can still play. We can still be playful. We can infuse a lot of lightness and just fun into things. So that is my rant for today. That is day 7. Remember to play. It's good for your soul. It's good for every part of you. It's good for the people around you. It's good for us collectively as a society and as a species. The more you play, the more we will all like be lifted up. I really truly believe that. Thank you, Seth. Oh, you're in 2 places at once. I love that you're like on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for all your comments, Seth. You really do. I love how much you engage with my stuff. So thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for watching the replay of one of these. Again, I'm gonna send the links to all 7 days out in a newsletter. I will post that newsletter on Facebook as well. And let's see, the person who gave me their email, I will try to send the newsletter to you as well. I'll just forward it to you, and then you can subscribe if you want to. Anyway, thank you for listening. And oh, by the way, I totally forgot to, and I forgot to mention this on the last few days, last week, which is, so my masterminds, I have 2 of them. They were technically closing at the end of February, but then when I forgot to do, or when I didn't do day 7, I wanted to just like sort of make a little exception. So technically the doors are closed. However, if you are a woman who is ready to completely unleash your inner badass, and you're ready to get support and work with a community to up-level your life this year, please reach out to me. I'm still happy to let somebody in because I messed up the timeline. So the doors are closed, but they're not for you. But they'll be basically closing more technically soon. So if you're interested, let me know. I also have a higher level mastermind that's for people who are already pretty deep into personal development and then really want to focus on manifestation and all that good stuff. But thanks again, and go play. Remember to play. So freaking important. Have a good day. Love you guys. Bye.